So now that we've created our VPC architecture, we can now look at deploying our EC2 instances into that VPC. So the first thing we need to do before we create an EC2 instance is that we need to create a security group for that instance. So what we do is, again, we go to the EC2 section, we scroll down to security group, and we drop that onto the VPC. We don't drop that onto the public subnet, drop it onto the VPC. Okay, we'll rename that again. So we click on components, and I'm just going to rename that. And again, backspace EC2 SG will be fine for us. And we'll update our designer. So our security group has a number of the dots that all of these icons have, has depends on, but the one that we're interested in now is in the bottom right hand side here. We've got VPC ID. So if we click on that, we can see the VPC is then highlighted, and we just go through and drop that onto the VPC. And that will make sure that our VPC ID is referenced in that security group. So we also need to add some more properties in there. So I've just copied those over from the lab notes and paste those in there. Okay. So what we need to make sure is that when we paste it in, that the indenting lines up with this here. So it indents from properties, and it will be in line with VPC ID. It'll be like that. And then when we go into our security ingress rule, that will be indented again with IP protocol. And then the from, to port, and CIDR block will then be indented again. And then we go back. And so that is a TCP port 80 connection for everything. And then we have our port 22 SSH traffic there for IP protocol TCP. So that is our security group ingress rules that have been defined there. So again, we click on refresh, and that will update that for us. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can now look at saving it again as a different version. So we'll save that, local file, and we'll call this one 2. So again, we go into our CloudFormation console. We leave it. We've already saved that. That's fine. And again, we go through and we'll select our stack, and we'll update our stack. Choose our file again. And next. And next. Next. And update. Okay, so that update has completed fine. It's created the security group, not a problem there. Okay, so let's go back into Designer. So click on Design Template. We'll load that back in again. Okay, just zoom in a bit. Okay, so I'll just minimize the editor now. Now that we've got our security group created, we now can go ahead and put our EC2 instance in there. So again, EC2, and drag an instance across into here. Again, we'll rename that instance. So we click on Components, and we'll rename that. So we'll just call it backspace EC2I. That will be fine. Refresh our designer. Okay. I'll just minimize the editor so that we can see it a little bit better. So again, we've got a lot of different stuff here, but what we're interested in is the depends on. So it depends. We can't create this EC2 instance until our route to the internet is there available. Otherwise, it's just not going to be able to connect. So there's no point launching an EC2 instance until that is ready to go. So we put our depends on, so the pink dot there, and we drag that over to our public route. Okay, so now that we've got that instance icon on there, we need to actually define, what AMI is that instance using. We need to define also what size that instance is. So we can start off by putting that into the property. So we click on that. We'll just split screen to get the editor up. Click on components to bring that up. And we can see that we've got our subnet ID reference. That's fine. So what we need to do is to go into properties and just before network interfaces and press enter. And we're going to copy over the details of that instance. So just copying that over from the lab notes. Okay, so make sure that it looks like that. So you have properties, and then you have an indent of 2 spaces, then your image ID, and then the instance type, and then lining up again will be the network interfaces after that. So again, we refresh our designer. So now that we've got our image ID, which is a WordPress image, and our instance type, we need to give information about the network interface side of things. So again, we'll copy that over from the lab notes. And we'll paste that in to where the current network interfaces section is. Delete that one, and we'll paste a new one in. Okay, so I'm just going to maximize this, and we can see it a little bit better. So there we go. So we've got our image ID, which is a WordPress AMI. We've got our T2 micro, and then in the networking section, we've got our group set, which is our backspace EC2 security group, which is associated with this instance. We want it to associate a public IP address. When it launches, it's going to be a web server. It needs a public IP address. We have the device index there and delete on termination being true. So when we terminate it, we want it to go. And we have a subnet ID there, which is defined. It's going into our public subnet. So we'll just go back to split screen and we'll refresh our designer. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can look at now doing our final update, which will deploy our WordPress server to this VPC architecture. So again, we save our current template to a local file. We'll save that, and we're going to give it the name backspace 3. And we'll save that one there. When that's finished saving, we go again into the CloudFormation console. We click on that stack and we update that stack. We'll choose our new file, upload that, click on next, and next, and next. And we'll update that stack. So the update is now in progress. After a short amount of time, it will be ready to go and we can start to have a look at our web server in action. Okay, so our update has been completed. So our architecture has been created and our EC2 instance has been created and a route through to the internet has been created. So we should be able to now point our web server, or sorry, should be able to point our browser to this WordPress web server, and we should get a web page. So let's go to the EC2 console. And there we can see we've got one running instance there. Okay, so there's our instance and it's still going through doing its status check. So we'll just wait for it to finish that. Okay, so our status checks have completed. So we should now be able to, or very shortly be able to access our web server. So we just go and get the public IP address and we'll go to that. So just go to that. And there you can see we have our WordPress server up and running. So that's a pretty cool thing. So this has been a very, very long lab, but I'm sure you can appreciate that this is a great way to really learn about VPC. You're going to understand what is required for internet access. You're going to understand exactly if any of this stuff is missing, it's not going to work. I'm sure you've learnt a lot about CloudFormation as well, and how to launch a stack and how to fix a stack if there are problems with it. So that brings us to the end. All we need to do now is to clean this up. So what we do is we just close out of here. We don't go anywhere near the EC2 management console. Leave that alone. If you delete it from here, it's going to create problems when you go to delete the stack. So don't touch anything here. Go back into CloudFormation and delete the stack from there first. So just select it, Actions, and Delete Stack. So when you delete a stack, it will delete every resource that was created. So it's going to delete that entire VPC that was created. It's going to delete the security groups, the route tables. It's going to finally delete that instance as well. So we click on yes, delete. That delete will be happening. Okay, so after a certain amount of time, you're going to see that stack deleted, and all of the resources that were created by that stack will also be deleted. Now, this is a very big lab, quite a complex lab. I've created almost 30 pages of lab notes, so make sure you download those. It's taken about a week of full time to get this lab up and running. And I hope you appreciate it, because it's going to really be a really good lab for you to learn and fully understand VPC. So make sure you download those lab notes, go through them very carefully, take your time, and you'll get there in the end. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next lecture.